Hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, a set of helping hands. Well, if you're wondering what helping hands are, they are the arm extenders. You know, you pull the trigger and the claw closes to help you reach things that you can't reach. You know, like older people use them and... Okay. People with bad backs use them. Many times stuff has fallen behind my bench and I can't reach it, and I thought that these might be handy. Now this is a complete fly by the seat of my pants build. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't have a clue what I'm doing. I'm going to give it a try and figure it out as I go. So without further ado, let's get into the build. Well, the first thing that I want to start with is making the handle. So I'm going to use my tried and true handsaw template here, but I'm just going to use it for the back section. So we'll trace this out. And I think we'll just bring it to there. And I want this roughly the same thickness, so I'm just going to place a mark here where that thickness is, just like that. We may even bring this out. So now that I have this done, I'm just going to line up my ruler to make this look proportionate. And there we go, just draw that line. You can see how technical that is. And this here is 5 inches up from the bottom. So I will draw a horizontal line there at 5 inches across. So that, I think, will be my handle. And I guess I want to leave a little extra here to connect to the actual rod. So this is 4 inches up. So I'll just put a mark there at 4 inches. I think I'm going to want like another strip down here, maybe 3/4 of an inch thick. And we'll just round it off to make it a little more comfortable. And we'll just round this off to make it pretty. And I guess we're going to bring this 2 inches out, roughly. And we're going to round this off. And now this section here is where our rod is going to attach. So you want to leave enough material to get a good solid connection. So I think I'm going to come out here another 2 inches. So that will make it about 6 inches from the edge of the handle out. And there we have the template for our handle. So what I'm going to do now is, just to use up some of this scrap here, this offcut, we're just going to line up the edge, and I just want to trace the profile here of our template so we have a working area. And the reason for that is, at this point I want to make the trigger. So there is the area that we need to work with. So the trigger is going to be hinged right down here, right about here. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw a line where I think the trigger should be, just like this. And then we're going to measure out 3/4 of an inch, and then 3/4 of an inch, just like that. And then we will draw those two lines together. And I think what we're going to do is we will round off both of those ends, and that should work just fine for us. And then I'll take it over and cut it out. You don't really need a template of this. Because I'm going by the seat of my pants here, I'm just trying to see what's going to work and what's not. And there is our trigger template. So with this being done now, it's time to make the claw. So we're going to start off, I guess, with making it 7 inches long, we'll say. And I'll just draw a vertical line here. Now this will be where our pole goes in. And from here, what we're going to do is draw a line at 2 inches right across. So this is going to be the area that we need to work in. So we'll just measure across here 3.5 inches. And this will be where our actual claw is. So what I'm going to do is, let's see, I'm at 2 inches there. So let's make the end of the claw, I'm going to make it 3/4. We'll make the end of the pad here, now let's go 1 inch. And then I'm going to curve it up just like that. There we go. And this here will do the same thing. I do know that at this end over here, we're going to want a section that is 1 inch wide to connect to everything else. So we'll draw that line. And then I guess we'll just come down like this. And then we'll connect it back up in here. There we go. That'll be our top arm, I believe. Something doesn't look right there, so we'll fix it up just a little bit. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this cut, and then we'll see if we can figure the rest out. I know this is confusing, but that's what you get when you fly by the seat of your pants. Well, here we have what I came up with, the arm, or the top section of the arm. And now I need to come up with the bottom jaw. So I just want to mark here the ends. Again, for reference, we need to sort of know the area that we're working with. So I'll just draw these lines. And then we'll line up our template and just draw the outline of it so that we know exactly what area we have to work with. So what I need is a jaw to pivot here. Okay, we'll try this. There's that jaw. This jaw like that. Curve this around. Okay, we're going to stop it there because I kind of have to figure now how this is going to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to square this off. And looking at this, this will have to be the highest point here. And then this will be the lowest point. So I'm going to angle it like that. The reason I say that is, no, that's wrong. I've got it backwards. This has to go this way. Because what's going to happen is when this jaw opens, this is going to drop down. So you don't want it to, if this was high here and the jaw opened, it would hit the top of our piece. So that's no problem there. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to finalize this little sketch. I'm going to actually drill my pivot hole in this so I can mark it on the two pieces and get them identical. And once I get that done and get this lower jaw drawn or cut out, I'll show you what I have in mind. Well, with our top claw and our lower jaw done, they will eventually get put together like this. And then as you pull the trigger, it will be able to close and clamp down just like that. So what we're going to need now is I'm going to check the rack for scrap material. I'm looking for 1/4 inch material, and I want to make 2 of this piece. I want to make 2 of our handle, and then once we get those done, we'll move on to making the main body and the trigger and the lower claw. So let's get these 2 of each of these cut out of 1/4 inch material. Well, I have my 2 handle pieces cut. I just cut them out of 1/4 inch scrap oak that was up in the rack. And as well, I had a scrap of mahogany 3/4 of an inch thick. I cut another piece, but you can see here that I've cut it not only short here, but I've also cut a recess, and that recess will house eventually our handle to pull, or our trigger. We can glue these 3 pieces together just like this, sandwich them, and then glue them, put them aside and let them set up, and then we'll come back to those. As well, I have also cut the top claw out of 2 pieces of 1/4-inch thick cherry that I had up in the rack. And from that same scrap piece of mahogany, I have cut just the front end of the claw. And as well for this, we can glue this together. While we're waiting for those to set up, we'll turn our attention to this piece, which is our trigger, and our lower claw. And basically we need to cut 1 piece each of these out of 3/4-inch thick material. It's now time to move on to our actual rod, or the part that gives everything length. And for that, I found a piece of cherry up in the rack. I believe it's 3/4 by 3/4, yeah. And what I'm going to do is I need to cut a dado in it all the way along on one edge from end to end. I'm gonna say I'm gonna go 3/8 of an inch deep and 1/4 of an inch wide, right on the center of our piece of cherry here. And once I get that done, I'll cut it to a length of 25 inches. Well, I've gone around and sanded my handle assembly all the way around the perimeter just to level it out. What you want to do now is take your handle piece and you want to sand it so it's slightly thinner than 3/4. It needs to move perfectly freely, and it will sit down here in this little recess that we cut. We're going to take it over to the drill press, clamp things in place, and drill right in the middle of our handle here and in the middle of our base, a 1/4-inch through hole right through all of our pieces. I've done that already with our jaws, and what I did for that is I lined it up so that our jaws sat flush, and once I was happy with it, again, I clamped it all together and then drilled our 1/4-inch through hole. And what we're going to have at the end of this all, I'm going to put a 1/4-inch steel pin here, and that will allow our jaw to open and close. You want to make sure that this is free flowing. It cannot have any tension whatsoever. We also did, or I did, a test fit, and what I found was the jaw would only open about this much because that triangle that we had up here on our template, this top corner, was getting in the way. So it was striking here against our plate. So all I did was I sanded that off until I got the fit that I wanted. You can see there that the point is gone. And with the pin in place, that will allow it to open and close freely. So I'm going to take the handle over, do the drilling, and then I'll come back and see you and show you what we need for the next step. So let me just show you something here. What I've done is I've drilled a little shallow 3/8 diameter hole right here in the trigger. As well, I have done the same thing right in here. And what that's going to house is a spring. And the idea here is to place the spring in here. It will be glued in eventually, but we'll glue it into one divot here at the one end, and then we'll glue it into the other end of the trigger. And once you get those glued into place like that, your trigger then will be spring loaded so that it will always spring back. Hence the reason why this has to be loose and free floating with no tension. If there's too much tension and you compress the spring, it'll hold there. So either way, this is what I've got, is this spring. So what I want to do now is on the opposite side that I've drilled that 3/8 hole, I want to put an eye bolt right here, just a small eye bolt. But first, let's pre-assemble this thing and I'll show you what we're looking at or how I want this to go together. So let me show you what I've got in mind here. So here is the bottom jaw of our claw. I've put another eye bolt in the end of this, and we'll just place this together with our pin. Again, this is all temporary just to make sure this works. what I've done is I've also assembled the handle, and I've got the spring in there. I've got an elastic band holding this temporarily because I haven't got the spring glued in yet, but you can see that our spring mechanism works just fine. And what is going to happen is I've connected a piece of coat hanger wire to our eye bolt in the handle, and our piece with the dado, and I ended up having to enlarge the dado at both ends to accommodate the eye bolts. So our piece with the dado will go in between our two handle pieces. I'm just going to clamp this to the bench to hold it in place for me. And then what we want to do is this coat hanger piece, that is going to get hooked onto this end of our eye hook with our jaw, and then our dado piece will go like this, and we will set it in place where we want it, just like that, and then we'll clamp it down. And then all we have to do is test our trigger. Okay, we've got a problem there, but what is the problem? The problem is the eye bolt is hitting. So all I have to do is move it away just a little bit. And again, we'll clamp this to the bench to hold it all together and test our trigger. That works pretty good, actually. That's pretty cool. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make sure that that rod is straight and that it's the way that I want it. I'm going to give all the pieces a good sanding, and we're going to glue it together. Everything looks good. I'm happy with the way it functions. I'm happy with the way it operates. But there's one more piece that I want to add, and that will be a piece of, hopefully cherry if I have it in the rack, but a piece that will go all the way here, 3/4 of an inch wide, and the full length here of 25 inches to cover up our mechanism, our working mechanism. Once we get that glued into place, we're going to give this another really good sanding, glue our spring into place, get our pins peened into place, and then that will be it for this project. And then I guess we'll test it and see how it works. And when we're all said and done, this is what we ended up with. Honestly, for scrap wood, I think it looks great, but it can look pretty all at once. The big question here is, how does it function? Well, here I have a few number 8 by 1.5 inch screws. And you know, you drop these things behind tools and that sort of thing. So how well is our helping hands going to actually help? So, wow, that actually worked really well. How about, so is that repeatable or is it just a one-time deal? No, sir, that is repeatable. Check that out. So you can just grab a hold of whatever you want there. No bending, no stooping, just grab it. And check out the action on this. So the spring mechanism works really well. And I was considering adding some rubber to the end of here to give it a bit more grip. But after seeing it pick up those number 8 screws, I honestly don't think we need it. And there you have it. Helping hands, for lack of a better term of what to call it. Guys, this thing works, honestly, for me anyway, surprisingly well. I wasn't sure how this was going to work out, and as you saw through the video, me fumbling around, I really just had an idea and a bit of a plan as to how I wanted it to get together, or go together, but I'm not really sure how to accomplish it. But honestly, I think it was a complete success. I do still have the templates for the handle and the claw and that sort of thing. So really, I could make extra ones if I want. I really think that you would only be limited by how long your center piece is and how long your coat hanger wire is. Now guys, I considered at some point in time using like string or that sort of thing to control the mechanism, And there just wasn't enough strength there for me. And then I started thinking, if the string breaks, well, how are you going to replace it and that sort of thing, because I wanted it all to be enclosed. So the coat hanger idea came to me, and I'm glad I thought of it, because honestly, it's pretty darn cool. Guys, this came because basically I'm one of these guys that's constantly dropping things behind my tools or under my tools. And you know what? It's great that everything in my shop is mobile, and it's great that I can move it and get in behind to get what I dropped. But sometimes you just want a little helping hand. Guys, this has been a lot of fun. I really enjoy these fly by the seat of your pants builds, because you never know what you're going to come up with, and you never know how it's really going to come together. So I was very pleased with how this one finally came out, and it took a bit of tweaking, but all in all it went, it went pretty trouble-free for the most part. So it's just awesome. Guys, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the bell so that you don't miss the notifications of future episodes of the show. I hope that you've enjoyed today's program. I hope that you've enjoyed something a little different here with this picker-up thingy-majiggy. And honestly, guys, I hope you're going to try this yourself. And as well, join me again next week when I bring you yet another woodworking video.